purpose of keeping the ring? For what? And then she's gonna say, oh, it was because I had the intention of marrying you. You know what? Okay. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl JD here, back with another video. So we are finally going to be discussing the Love is Blind season 4 and pretty much all the shenanigans and craziness that has been going down in this season. This is probably one of the most entertaining and messiest seasons to date. Unlike season 1 and also season 2, I would say, in this season they actually did it where they would only drop, I think it was like maybe 3 episodes per week. So obviously we had to keep waiting for more and more episodes to come out, and now I am up to basically the finale where they pretty much have to get to the altar in front of their family and friends and say whether they want to marry this person or not. There's a lot to talk about, It was definitely a journey even getting to this finale in itself, so let's just hop into it. So I have my notebook here, okay, my handy dandy notebook with the names of all the couples, but there were some changes made. Obviously we're going to talk about that, okay? But I do want to say, if you guys have not watched up to the finale like me, please do not watch this video, okay? Disclaimer, because I know some people, they'd be like, don't spoil, and I'm like, so why did you click on the video? You know I'm going to spoil. Like, what? So we're gonna start off with the pods, the episodes in the pods. So I'm just going to say the names of the original couples that came out of the pods, okay? But like I said already, one of them ended up changing. From the pods, we have Kwame and Chelsea, Marshall and Jacquelina, aka Jackie, but I'm gonna be referring to her as Jackie for the rest of the video, Paul and Micah, Zach and Irina, and lastly Brett and Tiffany. So I'm gonna start with Kwame and Chelsea. Right out the gate, Kwame, he came across as a guy that, I'm not gonna lie, he seems a little superficial. Okay, he does seem kind of surface level, very much so an outrovert, but he seems like a player that's kind of prancing around and acting like he's a really nice guy. You know what I mean? It's just, it sounds weird to say, but that's the vibe that I was getting from the actions and the things that he said throughout the episodes. Kwame was originally talking to Micah. Micah and him seemed to be kicking it off. He started to form, I guess, a deeper connection than maybe she was, because she, after talking to Paul for, I don't know, a little over 2 seconds, it seems like. Obviously it was much longer than that, I'm just trying to be funny. But she started talking to Paul and she was like, you know what, hey Kwame, this is not gonna work, you know, like I just don't see us going anywhere because I see a deeper connection, so-called deeper connection with Paul. So I just want to end things here. And Kwame, you know, he seemed to be taking it on the chin, but then of course he went back to the men's quarters and he started crying. And it just seemed, I'm not gonna lie, kind of fake to me. I was like, I see real tears, but just couldn't really feel sorry for him. Y'all let me know how y'all felt in that moment, but I just could not find it in myself to feel empathetic. It was rather strange. Again, y'all let me know how y'all felt in that moment. I forgot to mention, all along while he was talking to Micah, he was also talking to Chelsea in kind of like more of a friendly way. You could tell they were kind of like flirting with each other here and there, but Chelsea seemed like she was doing a little bit more of flirting, if you catch my drift. You know, it just always seemed kind of more on Chelsea than with Kwame. Kwame, I feel he was a little bit more, I guess, connected to Micah. That definitely carries over. Okay, I'm gonna talk about it. It carries over into obviously the outside of the pods relationship leading up until the wedding. Kwame, after he got pretty much rejected by Micah, you know, plan B, Chelsea, basically. I think she ended up finding out that she was pretty much plan B. Obviously, you would kind of feel a ways about that, don't get me wrong, but I would definitely feel more of a ways about it if I feel as though you're not as into me as I am into you. You know what I mean? So that's the vibe that I got with Chelsea and Kwame for sure. So now I'm gonna go on to Marshall and Jackie. Marshall and Jackie, seem to have a kind of playful but also kind of emotional relationship going on, okay? That's the kind of connections that I think they were forming between each other. However, after the pods is when we start to see some people's true colors, but we're just gonna stick within the pods for right now. I keep getting off track, okay? Trust me, there's a lot to say about this couple. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, Marshall, Jackie, they seem to be hitting it off emotionally, but Jackie was also talking to Josh, which, you know, he's another character that comes back up in the storyline. Okay, just wait, just wait. She chooses Marshall over Josh because she claims Marshall had a lot more going for him emotionally speaking, so she felt more emotionally attached or connected to Marshall. So that's why, based on what she said, that's why she chose him over Josh, right? However, Marshall, he definitely does come across as a more sensitive person. I think he also shared like either his poetry or something with Jackie, I don't know, but it was definitely some type of really touching story that he shared with her while they were in the pods. And yeah, it definitely seemed though that Marshall was a little bit more in touch with his emotions than Jackie was with hers. For sure, okay? But Paul and Micah, like I said, Micah kind of cut things off with Kwame because she wanted to see how things went with Paul, and at the end of the day, Paul did end up proposing. However, I did not get the vibe that they had reached this point where they had connected on a deeper level. It didn't seem like their souls were touching, you know what I'm saying? I know that sounds so dramatic, but really though. It just seemed as though they were just talking as friends. It never seemed to be anything deeper than that. So that's why I found it kind of weird when they actually got engaged and he proposed, you know what I mean? Moving on, Zach and Irina. So Irina was actually friends with Micah. In the pods, Irina was talking to Zach, but Bliss was also talking to Zach. Obviously because the women all live together in this like living quarters situation, they have to be around each other outside of the pods. So it definitely was giving mean girl energy and kind of like you're bullying her a little bit. That's the vibe that I was getting from Irina and also Micah a little bit. So when Bliss would have conversations with Zach, even though they liked each other, Zach would also bring up the fact that he's talking to Irina, that he feels a connection to Irina as well. When Irina's name comes up in their conversations, Bliss does not hesitate to say, hey, I don't really care for her like that, okay? In essence, that's basically what she said. And Zach was just kind of like taken aback a little bit. He's like, well, what do you mean? Like, I think she's a cool person. I mean, I have a different relationship with her. And it's just like, okay, clearly you don't live with this girl, so you only get to see what she's presenting to you, Zach, you know? It's like, he was a little ditzy in that era. It was like, okay, clearly Bliss actually gets to see this girl every day and live with her. So I think she would know a little bit more of who this girl is versus you, which is why it was some issues after Zach had proposed. Yeah. Okay, Zach ended up ending things with Bliss. This is after she had taken some time to make him either some cookies or some cupcakes. And Irina was kind of, you know, poking fun at her for it. And I was like, I mean, why do you care? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can understand if you just like a little bit jealous, you know, a little competitive because you want him. But it's like, I mean, I don't see how that makes you look better. You know what I mean? It was a bullying situation that I did not like. And after Zach had ended things with Bliss, you could tell that he felt in his heart that he ultimately made a mistake, but he was like, I can't go back on it now. I already said no, and we're not going to continue things, so I just need to stick with it. But you could tell based on his reaction, he knew he made a big mistake. So Bliss ends up, of course, you know, walking away. She's crying, Zach's crying. Bliss is seeking the comfort of at least some of the ladies in the living quarters, right? Irina, even after it looks as though they had kind of sort of made amends, she still kind of was acting kind of funny. But either way, I'm happy that Bliss decided to be the bigger person because I know it wasn't gonna be Irina. Bliss decides, you know, hey, I'm gonna actually act my age. Should just make amends, okay? It's okay, whatever. Whoever he decides on or chooses, that's what it is. But at the end of the day, he ended up breaking things off with Bliss and goes with Irina, which ended up being a Interesting choice, that's all I'm gonna say. Moving on to the last couple, we have Brett and Tiffany. So Brett and Tiffany seem to kick it off from the moment they started talking to each other. They seem to only be interested in each other, really. Honestly, the entire time, I don't think they even talked about anybody else. They only talked about each other. So I knew that they were a pretty strong couple. Tiffany is a little bit up in age. She's like 35, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she's definitely in her mid to more late 30s at this point. Brett, I think, is a little younger, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but either way. And at one point, I remember the funniest part of their talking in the pods was when she fell asleep and Brett was trying to confess to her like his feelings and emotions, how he saw things going, and she just fell asleep. And I can understand, obviously, if you're like talking all day to people, being around people, how that could be really draining and energy zapping. So I can understand how you could be really tired at the end. But y'all, that was too funny. He was like low-key kind of hurt. I'm expressing my love basically, and you are asleep. Of course he didn't know that because he couldn't see her. I would have thought that you left. Maybe you were like, this is not for me, you know? But thankfully he decided to meet up with her again and she explained herself. But oh my god, that was too funny. Brett, of course, ends up proposing to Tiffany. So I was really happy about that. They seemed like the only couple that was really sure about each other. Kind of similar to Lauren and Cameron in season 1. Outside of this season anyway, I had yet to see a couple that was that sure of each other, to be honest. Majority of the couples just seem very shallow and kind of fake, and I'm just trying to get on the show really type of vibes is what I was getting. So let's get into them meeting each other and then also them going on their honeymoons. This part was interesting. So let's start off with Kwame and Chelsea. So Kwame and Chelsea, they meet each other. Of course, like I said already, Chelsea just always seemed very much so more interested in Kwame than Kwame was in her. She definitely was like, oh my god, you're gorgeous, you know, you're handsome. Kwame was just kind of like, oh yeah, you know, like this fake smile, and it just, I'm just like, everything about you just seemed kind of fake, you know, in this moment. He gives her the ring and they're still looking at each other and all that type of stuff. When they get to the honeymoon, of course they do some things as a couple, a few excursions here and there, vacation, woohoo, you know, obviously it's supposed to be a honeymoon. But when all the couples get together to meet each other, it's so interesting how quickly, as soon as he sees Micah, he's just like, oh yeah, I need to talk to her. And thankfully he actually asked Chelsea for permission first, but still it doesn't make it any less awkward, you know what I mean? Spending so much time talking to Micah, basically the whole pool party talking to Micah, and it's just like, okay, I don't know what's going on, you know what I'm saying? But thankfully that kind of changed a little bit, because after I think Kwame had a conversation with Chelsea about that situation, because it was basically kind of like him ignoring Chelsea in a way. What could y'all be talking about that's so pressing? He had another party, I think, with all the couples there, and he kind of treated her, I mean Mike anyway, he kind of treated her a little interesting the last time he saw her. And I think Irina and Micah was asking him for a drink, like asking him to get them a drink, and he was like, nah, you could go get that yourself. And Brett was standing right there. He was like, oh, that's the type of time we're on, okay. I think he was just trying to prove to Chelsea a little bit like, oh, you know, I took what you said to heart. Like, I'm actually trying to make sure your feelings aren't hurt. Right. Marshall and Jackie seem to get along with each other. They, like I said, presented a very playful side to each other in the pods, and it carried over when they met each other. However, when it got interesting was when Jackie kind of had like this breakdown. She was like, I don't want to go back to my life. I don't want to have to deal with everything that I'm dealing with in my life. And Marshall is just trying super hard to be there for her. And, you know, God bless his heart. He really was there. Okay, he showed up for her. The other guys, I'm not gonna lie, not all of them, but like, for example, Kwame, he did not give me that type of vibe. Like, I'm here for you. you. He never gave me that. So Marshall was definitely like the complete opposite in that regard. So that was very interesting to obviously see that side of Jackie, because she kind of presented that she was like this rough and tumble, strong, independent woman, but then you're having emotional breakdowns in front of your fiance that you just met a couple days ago. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, you're trusting. Moving on to Paul and Micah, when they met up with each other, they seemed to be okay with how each other looked. It was rather interesting watching them kind of sorta try to get to know each other, but it seemed like more of a friendship relationship again. It just did not seem like a, ooh, I really like you, might even grow into love. It just seemed like a, oh, you're my homie type of situation, you know? But moving on to Zach and Irina, child, this honeymoon, and let me start off with the meetup. The meetup was hilarious. Not obviously for Zach, but it was hilarious to me watching it, because it was like, this is karma, Zach. You should have went with Bliss. He chose Irina out of the pods. They met up with each other. And from the moment Irina saw him, she was like, oh no, this is not gonna work. You could see it all over her face. She was trying super hard to just smile it away, smile it off, but she knew from the moment she saw Zach, she was like, oh hell no, I cannot do this. You are not my type. Zach, you could tell, was like genuinely excited, but he was taken aback by how standoffish she was, because she wouldn't even give him a kiss, nothing, like no peck on the cheek. It was cold, more frigid than the dang North Pole. I was like, wow, wow. When they got onto the honeymoon is when you really started to see sparks fly, and not in a good way, child. It was about to catch fire and burn to the ground. But either way, Zach was, you know, really trying to get to know her, obviously, as the person that he can now see in person. And he definitely seemed like a very genuine individual, at least to me. Some other people on TikTok and also on Instagram had some differing opinions about that, but he seemed like a genuine person. He just genuinely made a mistake choosing Irina. But anyway, Irina, she's still acting really standoffish. They were not hanging out with each other at all. And Irina was actually the person to bring that up. And she was like, I had a deeper conversation with Paul than I had with you since we've been out of the pods, and I just don't like the feeling of that. And Zach is just like, well, I mean, you haven't even tried to have a conversation with me. Like, what? You were too busy talking to other men's. Like, let's be honest here. So that was very interesting, her revealing that to him. And right then and there, Zach was like, yeah, I think I chose the wrong person. I think you know that. So give me back the ring and I'm gonna go find Bliss, my true love. That was just really interesting watching them try to force something. Zach, I think, was really the only one really trying. Irina, I think, was just kind of buying time, trying to enjoy this honeymoon without having to do too much. But she, I think, knew from the beginning, like, this was not gonna work. She said that he even looked like a cartoon character. You tell this man he looks like a cartoon character and that he looks unreal. I'm like, that is not really a compliment. But I do have to say that I find it interesting that she had so much to say about his looks. But I'm like, Irina, you don't look like a supermodel, honey. Like, I'm not saying that to be mean, but it's like, I mean, you're maybe a 6 at the most on a good day. We're just gonna move on. They ended up breaking off their engagement. So Brett and Tiffany, they meet up. They were so in love. You could definitely see all the good things just play out. It really seemed to be deepening their emotional and physical, okay, attraction towards each other. With them, I was like, where is the bomb about to be dropped? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like this is just going too well. Moving on to when they move in with each other, because that's when things usually get very heated, or they realize that they really love each other. So it's one of the two, usually. So Kwame and Chelsea, they move in with each other, and I think that's when Chelsea does start to pick up on a little bit the fact that, you know, with Kwame, he seems so nonchalant about things. It just seems very like, oh, it's whatever. The fact that they live in 2 different cities. I think Chelsea lives in Seattle in Washington, and then Kwame, I think, lives in Portland, Oregon, or something like that. It's just kind of like, how do you think you could be in a marriage while living in 2 different cities? It's like, y'all gonna have to figure this out. And he just was like, you know, whatever, we'll figure it out when we get there. And Chelsea's just like, nah. You know what I'm saying? Like, ASAP. There are parts where, you know, Chelsea would get a little snippy with him and Kwame would kind of take it to heart a little bit. Like that one time he was like, are you okay? And Chelsea was like, do I look okay? He was like, wow, I'm just asking if you're good and you're snapping at me. So they had a whole conversation about that, child. And I was like, really, I don't think it was that deep, but okay. Clearly she was just feeling a little interesting that day, but I think with Kwame, it's like he's so used to people just being surface level as well, that when they actually feel emotions other than, oh my god, I'm happy, he's just like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't know if you're my person. Like, it's really weird with Kwame. But moving on. So Marshall and Jackie, child. Marshall and Jackie! Y'all, this was the couple. This was the couple. At first, it was people knocking Micah for being a mean girl with Irina.
Hey. Hey. How y'all doing?
But, oh nay, child. Jackie was the true villain. Jackie was the true villain, y'all. We missed her. I don't know how we missed her, but she was the true villain. So like I said, you know, Jackie had this whole emotional breakdown while they were on their honeymoon, child. And Marshall's just like, okay, I'm trying to comfort you. I'm trying to be there. So they move into their apartments. Marshall is making breakfast for this chick almost every morning. Got it sitting out on the table, serving her. I'm like, what? You know, even Jackie was taken aback, like, I have not experienced this type of love before. And that was the going theme for the entire relationship. Jackie had not experienced that level of someone taking care of her in a relationship before, and that ultimately was why I think at the end she did what she did. So Marshall making breakfast for her, he's talking to her, you know, trying to make sure that she's okay, you know, when she's coming from work, going to work, all this type of stuff, right? I don't even know what Marshall does. What does Marshall do as a job? Y'all let me know, because I have no idea. Jackie, though, after he, you know, is doing all of this, she starts pulling back a little bit.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Today drained me.
They have their fight, this big blow up. Apparently Marshall ends up leaving, but he comes back to kind of chat with her, and she's just like, okay, if you're gonna just leave while I'm trying to have a conversation with you, like, I might as well just call it quits on this relationship. I might as well just leave too. But thankfully she stayed and they talked it out. However, it seemed as though it was just a matter of, I really want a toxic guy. I want a toxic, mad, aggressive type of guy. And she was saying things like, we don't even have sex, we don't do this, we don't do that. And I was just kind of like, I mean, obviously us as the viewers, we don't get to see a lot of what's going on, you know, because they obviously kind of edit certain things out. But I'm like, what am I missing here? It's like we went from being super connected and really liking each other to, oh, you're the problem because you don't do this, this, and that. Like, you don't remind me of my super toxic exes. That's what it came across as. That seemed to be the only problem. She conveyed that in more ways than one, and Marsha was just kind of like, I'm not understanding what you're asking of me, though. You could clearly tell he was so confused. And he was like in his head already piecing together the fact that he wasn't gonna be what Jackie wanted. I don't think Jackie was gonna be what he wanted at the end of the day. I think they fell into a deep like with each other, but not a deep love with each other. At the end of the day, they had this whole conversation. Jackie was like, I can't deal with you because you need too much. You're too high maintenance for me. You're too emotional. I can't deal with all of this. And this conversation actually, I think, went down shortly after Jackie met up with Josh. Y'all remember Josh from the pods? Yeah, the same Josh that she decided not to match up with, not to talk to or continue pursuing. Yeah, that Josh. They met up in person. They went on a date, basically, a little coffee date, met up with each other. She never even told Marshall that they were even meeting, not even as friends, okay? Even Josh was like, hey, does Marshall know that I'm here with you right now? And she says basically no. And I'm like, wow, it's the disrespect for me. This was while they were supposed to be going basically shopping for their wedding dresses and suits for the wedding. Instead of going to get a fitting done for her wedding dress, Jackie goes to meet up with Josh. I'm like, wow, Jackie, wow. I just feel sorry for Marshall, really. She just needs someone toxic. I think she gave up on that relationship, much like Marshall said in an interview actually that I found on TikTok. She gave up on that relationship way, way before he did. I know that for a fact.
Definitely in watching it, it felt like she had sort of left the relationship before she had told you that she had left the relationship. So what was your perspective on how she handled connecting with Josh and ending things with you?
Honestly, I think she handled it the best way she could. No one's perfect, and so she made her decision prior to talking with me, and that's totally fine. You know, it happens, and I've been through enough breakups to know that really is no hard feelings. You're just putting yourself first, and that's okay.
The fact that instead of going wedding dress shopping, you go up to me with another man. Like, child, all I could say is I wish Marshall the best. What's cracking me up though is that Jackie was like, you need too much emotional stability, when Jackie was the one having a whole emotional breakdown during their honeymoon, literally just a couple days after meeting each other in person. But he needs a lot of emotional backing. He does. Okay, ma'am. Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in it, but basically, she decides she wants to keep the ring. And I'm like, the audacity when you just said to this man, I am not interested in you. I can't give you what you want.
Marshall, I can't love you because I'm attracted to Josh. I just saw Josh, and there is some chemistry.
So what was the talk about?
It was him basically confessing his feelings.
What are you saying to me right now?
I don't want to be with you anymore, and...
You want to be with Josh?
I will find that out.
Okay, Jackie. I would like the ring back because I don't think that you deserve it. Because you should never have accepted my proposal.
Well, I'm going to keep the ring because I accepted it because I wanted to marry you.
What is the purpose of keeping the ring? For what? And then she's gonna say, oh, it was because I had the intention of marrying you. You know what? Okay, you know, and even Marshall was like, you know what, it is not even worth it at this point. Keep the ring. I hope you look at it and think of me and realize what you lost out on every time you look at it. I'm just like, I mean, Marshall, I don't think it was this deep for Jackie. Look her in the eye. You could clearly tell her intentions were not that great, okay, from the jump. I think with Jackie, she just needs a lot of help. She needs to do a lot of soul searching. And I don't know why she was on this show. I think she was just more so used to a certain level or type of guy, and Marshall just wasn't it. So that's why she had such a negative reaction to their relationship outside of the pods, because I think in her head she was like, he's the guy I need, but he's not the guy I want. So I need to sabotage it. With Jackie, with the whole ring situation, I don't really think she's gonna keep it. I think she's just probably gonna pawn it. Like, she probably just sell the ring really altogether. Moving on to Paul and Micah. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember much about their relationship. I just gotta be real with y'all. They seem very surface level. The conversations they would even have did not seem that pressing, did not seem that deep. It just seemed more of like a, hey buddy, you know what I mean? Like, that's the vibe that I got from them. But besides them doing things, like fun things together, it didn't really seem like they were really getting to know each other on a deeper note. He was talking to his friends at one point. He was like, you know, whenever I leave the room, she's always like, I miss you, or something like that. And I'm just like, I mean, that's kind of cringe considering that y'all can't have no deep conversation. Do you really miss him? Like, is he really gonna miss you? I'm just saying. It just didn't really seem like there was much there. So there wasn't really much to talk about. So we're just gonna skip over them. So Zach and Irina, like I said already, after the honeymoon, actually right before the honeymoon ended and they had to go and live in their apartment, they decided to call it off. The engagement was off, and I think Irina ended up having a conversation to Micah about how she liked Paul and that she had a deeper conversation with Paul than with Zach. And I was like, I mean, why would you tell your supposed friend that you like their fiance? You know what I'm saying? In a romantic type of way. It's just very strange. But then again, Micah, she strikes me as a very surface level type of person, very kind of vapid. So I wasn't really surprised the type of people that she would attract, which, for example, Irina, like I said, it doesn't surprise me. When they felt kind of comfortable enough to have that conversation, I was like, yeah, if you guys continue to be friends, you clearly are very, very surface level type of person. You do not care about like actually having friends that are actually good for you. So Zach and Irina, they call it off, and Zach is just like, you know what, I'm gonna call up Bliss. They meet up, and it was the first time that Bliss had saw Zach in person. He had a lot of explaining to do because he had already, you know, told Bliss like, hey, I'm going after Irina, but now Irina didn't work out, so I'm gonna come after you. So again, it's like another second choice situation. It was really just a rocky start, and I could definitely see that Bliss was having a little bit of a tough time trusting the things that Zach said early on, but it did seem like they kind of got over that hurdle. When Zach had met up with Bliss's family, they had a really nice heartfelt heart-to-heart moment with, you know, Bliss's mom. Bliss ended up meeting Zach's family. They really liked Bliss because, I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, look at her. She looks like a little angelic creature. You know what I'm saying? It's like she just gives off like sunshine, rainbows, and confetti. You could definitely see that Zach actually really genuinely loved her. Like I said, he had a whole crazy reaction when he had to turn Bliss down. Well, he didn't have to, but he chose to. He chose to turn Bliss down for Irina. And I'm just like, really, Irina? Irina? But anyway, what gets me is when he was trying to explain himself further to Bliss about why he chose Irina. And he was like, I have a deeper connection with her. And I was like, do you really though, Zach? Like, do you really? Bliss's dad was a rough one. Okay, watching that back, I'm like, Jesus, that was probably the roughest meetup with a parent that I've seen on Love is Blind to date. All the seasons combined, that seemed to be the roughest, honestly. He definitely kind of did not really care for their situation, the fact that they only knew each other for a month. And then on top of that, well, I don't know if they told him that Bliss was kind of his second choice. I don't think he said that. I think he only told Bliss's mom that, hopefully, because you could already tell, like, yeah, the dad was not sold on this at all. In that situation, Zach just kind of took a step back. He was like, I could tell you already don't really care for me, and you know, I'm just like, it's your daughter, I understand, but yeah, I'm just gonna let her talk to you on this one. You could tell they were two different types of guys. Zach was a lawyer. The dad, I don't know what he did, but he was talking about like going fishing and stuff like that, and Zach was like, yeah, that's not my thing. So it was already off to a rocky start. Like their interests weren't matching up. Yeah, it was like, ooh, this is bad. Lastly, we have Brett and Tiffany. So really and truly, it seemed like they were just speaking each other's love languages. It just didn't really seem like they were reaching any type of hurdles, you know? Up until, of course, Tiffany had like a little bit of an emotional breakdown before the wedding. She was like, you know, I really just don't want to be planning this wedding. It's just too stressful. Brett, of course, being the supportive fiance that he is, he was just trying to do his best to comfort her, you know? Like he didn't really, I don't even remember what he said. Just remember he was just trying to be like, you know, it's okay, you know, that type of stuff. But I'm sure in the back of his mind he was like a little bit worried, because it was like, girl, what do you mean you don't want a wedding? You know what I mean? It's just like, you don't want to get married to me? Like, what is this? Are you trying to say no before we even get to the altar? Like, I don't know. But at this point, obviously Marshall and Jackie, they weren't a couple anymore. Zach and Irina, they weren't a couple anymore. So Zach and Bliss were now the replacement. So now, okay, leading into the day of reckoning, okay, whether they say yes or no, we have Kwame and Chelsea, Paul and Micah, Zach and Bliss, and Brett and Tiffany. Ultimately, the finale episode was not that long. The last episode that I saw before the finale was basically, I think it was Kwame and Chelsea. They were getting ready for their wedding day. and I think Kwame's sister and brother had came in, and you know, he already knew that his mom wasn't giving her blessing. She wasn't coming to that wedding, okay? He was actually on a season of Married at First Sight as well. I've done a video on that show already, but I have a few that I need to talk about. I have a few couples that I need to talk about from that show. But yeah, his mom was not supportive of that. I don't really blame her. I just gotta be honest. It just seems kind of like you're rushing into things, you know what I mean? But moving on, their families were getting together. His sister came in, gave her something from, you know, their culture. I believe he said he was from Ghana. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he said Ghana. She was just like, you know, we're family now, you know, pretty much accepting her into the family dynamic. So I thought that was really nice on her part. They finally got to meet, and then she did that for Chelsea. So that was nice. Then, of course, you know, when it came to the wedding, she answers first, and she's just like, yeah, of course, you know, but you could definitely, again, still see the hesitation in Kwame's eyes. And it left me in like a very questioning mood. I'm like, if this dude says yes, you took a little too long to say it. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, But he ended up saying yes, so they are married, okay? But again, even when they walked away, Chelsea was screaming to the rooftops like, oh my God, you know, we're married now, getting on this new adventure, you know, we're gonna experience things together. And it just seemed like Kwame was very reserved in his excitement. Like, I don't really know, but I still said yes. It's really weird. Let's move on to Paul and Micah. So the entire time with Paul and Micah, they just did not give me that reassurance like, oh yes, they're definitely going to get married and say yes to each other at the altar. So it wasn't a surprise to me when Micah decides, instead of answering first, she was like, hey, I think the best thing for us right now is for you to answer first. So she gave him the opportunity to answer first, and he already started off with his spiel, okay? He was like, yeah, I really like you, I love getting to know you, you're a good person, which I'm not too sold on the good person part, because Micah, the people that she associates with is questionable, you know? He gives his little speech, and then he says no. He says no, y'all. He says no. Micah is just looking at him all brokenhearted. Before she does run away crying, she's just like, yeah, I kind of knew that you were in that space, and you know, I just never got that validation from you that you really wanted to be with me. And I'm just like, neither of y'all gave each other that validation. It just both seemed like y'all were just buddies. Like, it did not seem like a I really love you situation. But anyway, he says no. She doesn't even answer. She's just like, I'm just going off of what you say. If you say yes, then I'll say yes. But if you say no, I'll just run away crying. So that's what ended up happening. He came to talk to her a little bit, and she's just like, I just think you should just go. I mean, really and truly, he said what needed to be said. It's like y'all didn't really validate each other's feelings for each other when it came to being in a relationship, and even in a marriage. Like, how could you get married to someone that you're not sure about? But what gets me is that you could clearly see that she's distraught. Based on her crying, you could kind of see that. But when she runs away, her friend, that I can't remember the name of at this moment, her friend starts laughing. The blonde-haired one, the one who, when she met up with Paul for the first time, she was like, I don't really like him. And Paul didn't do anything. He did not do anything. It was just some weird jealousy thing that her friend had going on. I was like, girl, the fact that your friend is laughing in this moment, or smiling even, in the moment of your distress, it's a reflection of not only who she is, but of who you are. Because why would you associate with someone or call someone like that your best friend? Instead of consoling her, you're like smiling and laughing to yourself. Why would you want your friend to be in distress? You know, it's just really, really weird. Honestly, from when I saw her and Irina just kind of befriend each other in the pod situation, I already knew the type of person, honestly, that Micah was. So I'm happy that Paul walked away from that situation, because yeah, it was not going to be a good decision if he had said yes. Moving on to Zach and Bliss. They made it to their wedding day. I really loved Bliss's wedding dress. It looks so unique with the sleeves, but we're not here to talk about the fashion. We're here to talk about whether they said yes or no to each other. Zach, he was like, yes, absolutely. And then Bliss was kind of, in my mind, like a question mark. Not that she hesitated, but I wasn't sure if she was going to be able to get over the fact that she was option B. You know, so I was like, ooh, we'll see. But she ends up saying yes, and I was really happy about that because they both seem like very genuine people. But you know, Zach made a mistake, unfortunately, with Irina. I'm like, how are you this smart and make such a dumb decision? I was actually kind of surprised because I was like, ugh, I'm still kind of questioning whether Bliss is gonna say yes. Zach I knew was all in, but Bliss I was like questioning. But you know, they got married. And the last, of course, is Brett and Tiffany, and y'all already know they said yes to each other. Okay, it was already a done deal from the beginning. Like I said, they were the only ones that I think were super sure about each other from the jump. If they did not say yes to each other at the altar, I was gonna be like, run the footage, the behind the scenes, the everything. I need to know what happened because clearly we did not see everything that needed to be seen, honey. Okay, clearly. I'm gonna try to do another video just dedicated to the reunion. I don't know if it's gonna be a 1 or 2 part situation, but I know they're gonna have a lot to discuss. This video I know in itself was already really long, but I wanted to get through all of what happened leading up until the weddings. I know this is gonna be really interesting trying to edit, but I'm doing it for you guys, so you better watch. Make sure you watch the reunion before you watch, obviously, what I say about the reunion, okay? Because I don't want to spoil nothing yet again. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video with this quick recap. Well, I'm saying quick, but this recap. Y'all let me know your thoughts on everything that occurred during these couple of episodes down in the comments. And also what you're expecting to happen in the reunion, you know, if it hasn't come out by the time as I post this. But it might. I don't know. Y'all let me know your thoughts down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.